Welcome to The Whole Pack, where we challenge black and white thinking in holistic pet care and dive into the controversial topics everyone's thinking about but nobody's saying out loud. I'm Sunny Gandera.
And I'm Melissa Sherman, and we are two holistic pet health practitioners here to prove that holistic care can include critical thinking, self-care, and yes, even Western medicine when needed. This is a judgment-free community we wish we'd had when we started our journey.
Hi, and welcome back. We are talking about one of my least favorite topics today, and I think it might be Sunny's one of her favorites because, she's really great with this, but what we're talking about is email marketing. Cringe. I can just feel it in my body when I say it. It's not the concept itself. I know what I need to do. I know funnels, the word funnel. I can't even get a funnel in the kitchen without oh my gosh, is my funnel set up? I have a lot of anxiety and feelings and beliefs around it. There's, I don't even know where to start really, because it's very layered. I think there's something where I'm so overwhelmed with emails every day from people that I've subscribed to that I thought I was really interested in whatever it was that I signed up for, but I can't even maybe remember, which that's, I think, something important is when you engage with your email list, remind them how they got there. Because there's a lot of things where I'm I know I had to sign up for something, I just don't know what it is, and it's I can't do this in my inbox. So there's part of me that also believes people are going to see me that way. I know that's just a belief. And I know that because Sunny has told me that many times. But I still have this. I would say this might be one of the more challenging parts of my business. So I'm assuming there's people out there that feel the same way as me. It's not just me that looks at email marketing as this giant thing. And it doesn't have to be necessarily marketing. We're talking to our people that want to hear from us. So Sunny, how can I get to where you are with my thought process? Because I really need to dismantle these beliefs.
Well, listen, I'll start by saying I don't have everything figured out by any means, or I make mistakes all the time. And I will readily admit that a few months ago, I had gotten away from emailing. And I don't know why. I just did. Life happens. Life was lifing. But a while back, I sent out the first email to my list after a pretty long silence, right? And I had been so focused on social media. We were talking about that before, on posting consistently in reels and carousels and showing up on stories every day, that my email list had just been sitting there and it's just waiting. And I kept telling myself, I'd get to it when I have something really good to say. Well, finally, I was I got to send something out. Nothing fancy, I was just being honest and useful and written like I was talking to one person. And within 24 hours, I had a new client.
Wow.
Not from a reel, not from a carousel that took me 2 hours to make, by the way, from one email. And I remember thinking to myself, why have I been treating this like an afterthought? And that, I think, was what inspired this episode, right? Because I think a lot of us in this space, like practitioners, coaches, and healers, and nutritionists, we pour so much of ourselves into social media because that's where we feel visible. But visibility and connection are not the same thing. Just because you have 10,000 followers and a lot of likes, that doesn't translate into money, believe me. And your email list is actually where the actual connection lives. So I wanted to go through just explaining why social media alone is a fragile strategy. And then we can go into how, if you don't have an email list, please start one. And you don't need anything fancy. I'll go into it. And feel free, Melissa, to just interrupt me because I can talk all day long about this, as you know. But why focus on email and not just social media? You don't own your Instagram following or your Facebook page or your TikTok audience. Every single one of those platforms can change the algorithm tomorrow, which they do. I think they do every 2 hours. Yeah. They can suspend your account. They can throttle your reach. They can simply stop existing. And then there's nothing you can do about it. And you spend all this time building all of those, people up, right? And, you know, they belong not to you. Your email list, however, belong to you. That's it. So I have not come to this on my own. I've had a lot of good teachers, and I read a lot about email marketing. And Seth Godin, who I think is one of the most important voices in modern marketing, he wrote about this concept that he called permission marketing all the way back in 1999. And I think it's even more relevant now. And the idea is very simple. When someone gives you their email address, they're giving you permission to enter their space. That's not something the algorithm granted you, right? That person made a deliberate choice to say, yes, I want to hear from you. And that changes everything about how you should think about that relationship.
I actually have a question about that because, you know, I was going to ask you a question because I think one of the things that I feel is on social media, it's almost like we're there, and if they don't want to see it, they can just scroll by and they can just keep moving. It's almost like this open forum where I feel like the email is more intimate and like almost like I'm knocking on your door and you haven't asked me to, but like the way you framed that changed what I was saying, right? This is the story I'm telling in my head is like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to bother them because it does to me. It feels like I'm knocking on the neighbor's door without like giving them a heads up. I'm just dropping in, right? So that's such a really important reframe because that makes it more accessible to me, I think.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because, you know, think about it. How many choices they have to sign up for things, and they chose you. Yeah. Now that means I am asking you to email me. Right? So think about it. The average organic reach on Instagram right now is somewhere between 2 and 5% of your followers, if you're lucky. So say if you have 1,000 followers, maybe 50 people see your posts any given day. But your email open rate, if you're writing emails that people actually want to read, can be anywhere from 30 to 50%. I actually have a 50% open rate, which it's not normal, but it just is because, you know, sometimes in niche communities like us, you know, that where trust is the whole foundation of the relationship, it could be even higher. So we are working incredibly hard on the platform that is showing our work to the fewest people. And then we're leaving the one that reaches the most sitting just dormant, you know? Think about that.
That is a really good point because it does reach their mailbox. And I want to say, like, for myself, I actually have two different lists. I have, you know, my email list, that's my clients or people that have signed up for a lead magnet or something. And then I have my Substack. And I do feel like I have really put a lot of thought into this. I really feel like it's different people. And, you know, I give both of them the option if they want to join the other list and, you know, receive this as well. And there is crossover. But the reach that I get with my Substack is, I mean, and I'm going to say this, it is just crazy. It's 75% open rate.
Wow.
That people are opening it. And it is so, because, you know, at first it felt like I'm just emailing into a void and I'm emailing into a void. And then there was something about Substack that I was like, people are reading what I have to say. And it was inspiring. So again, Substack is a little different than a newsletter for me. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, but for me, I tell long format stories in Substack. So it really is, I'm generally not selling things. It's not about that for me, but I have converted clients. People have read who I am and come aboard that way. So
while I don't think Substack is going anywhere anytime soon, that is also someone else's platform. Although you do own your list there.
I own the list, but I also paid the extra $50 so it goes to your own website. So there's a little bit more. You do own your list there, which is really great.
Yeah. And so just sit with that, why you're feeling so comfortable on that versus just like, say you could write a long format on your blog post on your website and email out there. So it's about how you feel. And I'm not saying don't do Substack at all. I think that's great. And 75% open rate is fantastic. But I want to bring back to where you were saying, because I remember us, I don't know if when we were doing a cooking class together or some sort of class together, and we're like, I don't want to like bother with sending too many emails. You made some sort of comment, and I think that the feeling that a lot of people have is like sending emails is somehow pushy. Selling through email is gross, like that you're going to annoy people. Like you said, you come across as one of those marketers that floods someone inbox with things they never asked for. That's not you. I mean, so I want to offer you a reframe that really helped for me. And again, what I said before, if someone gave you their email address, they want to hear from you. That is not a subtle thing. So in a world where everyone's inbox is like, you get like millions of emails every day and everyone's very protective of their attention, someone that typed their email into your opt-in form is an act of intention. So they saw something you wrote or something you made, something you said, something you stood for, and they thought, yes, I want more of that. They raised their hand.
Yeah.
So if you go silent for weeks or months because you're afraid of being too much, you're not honoring what they asked for. You're ghosting someone who told you they want to hear from you.
Yeah, very
So
true.
I heard something like Brene Brown. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's a really great speaker, and she talks a lot about how the discomfort we feel around selling or being seen as self-promotional often comes from a deeper fear of not being enough. And us women, we have that, or alternatively, maybe we're too much. God forbid, right? So in this industry specifically, where so many of us came into this work because we deeply care about animals and people, and the idea of blending that care with commerce, it feels a little uncomfortable, right? It
Definitely
cheapens
does.
something.
Yeah.
But here's what I've come to believe, right? So staying hidden is not humility. It's not being generous. If you have knowledge that can really help someone's dog or cat live a longer, healthier life, and you're staying quiet because you don't want to seem salesy, who does that serve?
Well, no one. And honestly, it's people don't know that you have an offering if you don't tell them about it. So
Right.
whether they're on social media or not, maybe they're not. Maybe they just do emails themselves and they have no idea. Or they're only seeing 2% of the stuff that you're putting out on social media. They have no idea what you have to offer. So how do we share what we have to offer without, because it is challenging, because it's almost like the whole selling yourself versus being in service. There is this contradiction, this conflict that I feel as a practitioner.
Well, think about it. I think the practitioners who are changing the most lives in this space are not the ones that are modest about what they know. They've learned to talk about their work with the same confidence and care that they bring to actual client sessions. So when you send out an email, it's like, oh my gosh, I want more of this. Like, this is really intimate and passionate, right? So, before we jump to that, I wanted to just talk about, how do we get started, right? Like, how do we get started if you don't have an email list, or if you have signed up for an email marketing system, but you're like, I haven't sent any emails. Like, where do I start? So that's what I want to talk about, how people get on your email list. How do you get subscribers in the first place? Because I see a lot of people get stuck there. And so a lead magnet is something valuable that you offer for free in exchange for someone's email address, right? So it doesn't have to be complicated or take you weeks to create. But what it does need, I think, to be successful, or to have people to actually be motivated to give you their email, is to solve a specific problem for one specific person. So I just created a new lead magnet because I niched down to basically for focusing a lot on gut and inflammation that leads to cancer, because I do cancer prevention. So it was from from chronic itch to cancer, and I give tips on how to prevent cancer from showing up in the first place. So there's recipes, because I cook, so these are specific to me, but it doesn't have to be that. It can just be like a checklist of 10 things. Like maybe in spring, it's tick season, and you specialize in natural topical solutions or something like that, paw care, whatever it is. But the mistake that I see most people do is making it too broad. I made that mistake. I wrote 10 tips to have a happy and healthy dog. Boring, like everybody wants that. So, and that's not going to work because you're not speaking to anyone in particular. So the more specific your lead magnet, the more it's going to attract exactly the kind of person you want to be working with, right? So for something like, I did this inflammation roadmap for dogs, like specifically connecting the skin issues to cancer. That was specific enough that the person who downloaded it was almost certainly someone's dog who was dealing exactly with that, right? And who was ready to go deeper. That's a warm lead, what we call a warm lead, and someone who already trusts the framework before they ever book a session. Because obviously, you know, we're not just writing emails to entertain people. We definitely are eventually we're gonna sell, right? So think about what that one question is that you get asked the most, like in your consultations, in DMs, the comments of your posts, whatever that question is, that's probably your lead magnet, you know?
So I'm going to be a little contradictory. I mean, I see the value in it. I've seen the value in lead magnets, and like I've done a flea and tick, and I noticed that everybody that did sign up on that lead magnet, they unsubscribed like pretty quickly. Like they got it. It's almost like they got it and they just immediately went and unsubscribed, which is fine. But like, then it just feels like, oh my gosh, I did all that to make this wonderful lead magnet and now it's falling flat. Or on the other side of that, because I'm guilty of this too, signing up for other people's lead magnets and then I never look at them. So that's a belief in my mind as well, is like, how do we make something that people are going to open and look at, whether it's a lead magnet or the email itself, but in particular the lead magnet, since that's what we're talking about.
So when you delivered your lead magnet, did you have some sort of like, you know, other suggestion for how to continue getting, you know, value from you?
I mean, you can tell by looking at my face. No.
So you have to catch them because you only have like a minute. Like that's true, because they may see the value in your lead magnet, but I'm like, I don't know this person and she didn't write me anything. I just got the lead magnet and there's no motivation to continue that relationship. So easy unsubscribe because you have a million different emails coming into your inbox, which leads me to the welcome sequence, which is your first impression. You only get one chance to get a first impression. Is that what they say? So that a welcome sequence is very important for various reasons. That is a series of emails that goes out automatically after someone joins your list. And I want to make the case that this might be the most important content you ever write for your business, because it's the thing that shapes how someone feels about you before they ever have a conversation with you, right? So most people set up a welcome sequence, goes something like this. Thank you for downloading. Here's your freebie. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. So think about.
I'm laughing because that's exactly what I did, right? Like I put it in there. I'm thinking that this is the beginning of the welcome sequence, is that, and then the next day is something planned to go out to like continue to welcome them. However, they've now unsubscribed because I was so flat and boring up front.
Yeah, so, you know, think about what you would actually say to someone who just walked into, like, of course, if you had a brick and mortar, but if you walked into your practice for the first time. Not as a sales pitch, right? But like a human being who's really excited that they're here. So you'd probably tell them a little bit about who you are, how you got there. You'd probably share a little bit about your philosophy and why you approach things the way you do. You'd maybe share a story about a client whose pet you really helped, a moment that reminded you why this work matters, you know, so much. And somewhere in there, you'd probably give them something else useful, something that makes them feel like, wow, coming to Melissa was a really good decision. Like, I'm getting a lot of value here. That's your welcome sequence. So for instance, in my food brand, I give lots of like, you know, there's a downloadable, like, I don't know, booklet of 10 recipes. Or it could be like something about Norwegian culture that don't know, they would never find if they Google, because it's like coming from me, I'm living in Norway. But then I would continue in the emails and be like, here's an exclusive little snippet of a cooking video I did that's not available anywhere else. Ooh, I feel special, right? And so, you know, the same could be for my Not Your Average Dog Health Coach. I could film a cooking video for dogs. So, you know, I would say 4 to 6 emails. I would almost venture to 7 emails spread over a couple of weeks. I know you're like, oh my God, that's so much, but no. But each one has a purpose, right? One idea, one story, one thing to think about, not a sales pitch in every email. Don't start selling on email 1 or 2. You know, you are creating a relationship. You're creating trust. And so I really recommend, I keep mentioning all these books, but they helped me. So I'm just going to share it with you. But it's a book called Atomic Habits. And he talks about the concept of casting votes for the identity you want to have. So every email you send is a vote for the kind of practitioner you are. Every time you show up in someone's inbox with something that really serves them, you're casting a vote that says, I'm someone worth trusting. And trust is really the entire currency of what we do, right?
Yeah.
We have to have trust, otherwise we can't sell, or people are going to buy from you. I mean, I don't know who this person is. So that's your welcome sequence, 4 to 6 emails minimum. Now you've warmed up your audience, but you've also warmed up your CRM, your customer relationship management system, because Google and all these other, servers, they will, if people don't open, and because they see some crappy impersonal email and they don't open it, it goes into the spam box, and you're not going to be able to have your emails delivered to anyone, and you would get blacklisted. No one's going to see you, and you're spending all this time writing emails, and your open rate is essentially zero. But the most important next step is the nurture emails. And that is how to stay in relationship without burning out. We talked about this before, like, oh my God, I have to see like 7, clients a day, or if I take off, I'm not going to make money. Email list is where you can make passive income. So after your welcome sequence, the goal is not to stop. You have to continue, but you have to show up in a way that feels sustainable for you, right? And valuable to your audience. So this is what nurture emails are. And the name is actually really appropriate because that's exactly what you're doing, right? You're tending to your relationship over time. So, and I'm thinking about email lists, I'm talking a lot, but I get a lot like, how often should I email? Did you have that question?
I do have that question because I feel like I know the answer to it, but it also, I doubt it. I feel like if I do my newsletter, if they're out of the nurture sequence now, this is just the regular, I feel like what would be sustainable to me, because I do the long format writing, once a month, the newsletter would be sustainable for me.
Okay.
I tried to do the once a week, and this is too much. It stressed me out. So, I mean, I know people can do that, but what do you think?
I would say the honest answer to that is more often than you think, but less than you fear. So once a week is a good rhythm for most practitioners, not long format necessarily, but something. But once every 2 weeks or even a month is fine if it feels impossible to do that. But what matters more, I would say, is, and I say that about social media too, to be honest, but let's not talk about that. But it's more than frequency, it's consistency. Because, like, for instance, I used to email every Tuesday. People could expect every Tuesday I get an email from Sunny with a new recipe or a tip. Every random Tuesday, when you suddenly remember, that's something that people will forget about. You just mentioned that's like, I never remember signing up for this list. Unsubscribe. Right? Yeah. You haven't nurtured your list. So the other question is, what do I even write about?
Yeah.
And
that was a question I had, is what do I put in there? And of course it's going to be different for different people, but like, what are some ideas about what we could include in this newsletter or email? Maybe it's not a newsletter.
Yeah, well, I think that this is where us practitioners have enormous advantage that we're not using, because we are surrounded by content every single day. Every client session, has a story in it, something you observed, something that surprised you, something that has changed. Every dog you see, like every dog I see, even if it's not my client at Full Circle where I work now, for instance, every food therapy recommendation I make, every time a client comes back and tells me their dog's code has changed or their inflammation markers have improved, that's an email. Not because you're sharing confidential information or anything, because you're sharing just the texture of your work and that the reality of what you see and believe, right? So it comes from a place of excitement, of true energy, because I think that people don't open emails because they're perfectly formatted, right? They open because they feel like they're going to learn something, they're going to feel something, they're going to feel connected or be reminded of something they maybe they already knew but they had forgotten, or you put it into some type of way that just resonates differently with them. So give them that, right? And whenever you give that they'll keep opening. I mean, do you, for instance, have an example of someone like, oh my God, when you see that email come in, you always open?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So
and
that's what
I'll
you
save
wanna-
it. Like I'll even pin it if I can't read it right then.
See?
But yeah, there's a couple of people like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. There's obviously the value of it, but why do we have an email list, right? Of course, we want to sell stuff. So you are allowed to sell in your emails. You're actually supposed to sell in emails. I mean, I took a long time before I even felt comfortable doing it, to be honest. But that's part of the relationship, because if someone's been on your list for 3 months and you've never once mentioned you offer consultations, or you have a program opening up, or, maybe you have an ebook or something, they don't know. Like, they may have forgotten. People are busy, their inboxes are full. They need to be reminded. Don't be afraid to remind them more than once that you have something to offer. So the framework that works, could be like a 70, 30, 80, 20 split. So maybe 70% of your emails, I don't know if it's going to even be that much, but maybe 60, is purely valuable. You don't ask for anything, no ask attached. And 20, 30, 40%, some kind of offer or invitation to work with you. And when you do, the sales, I usually put it at the end of the email, which has already given them some value. Even in the PS, it's actually shown that people read PSs more than any other area of your email, because people are scanning,
Wow.
They scan and then they see PS, but, and you've earned that ask because you've shown up now. You've welcomed them, you've nurtured them, and another thing, I see this so many times, not from you. You're very good at reading emails, so don't be hard on yourself. But I see people writing emails to everyone. No, don't be like, hey friend. No. Write emails like you're writing to one person, not a list. And when I changed to that, I stopped thinking about broadcasting subscribers. I have thousands of subscribers in my food brand, not in my Natural Average. I'm still working up to that. But I started thinking, writing to one specific woman who has a giant breed dog, is scared of what's coming. The dog is aging, maybe some lipomas now, scared of cancer. And then the opens went up. When I started that, the replies started coming in, and then the bookings followed, right? So write to one person, because your list is not an audience. It's a room. Think of them as a room full of individuals who each made a personal decision to let you in, and then you write to them like that. And that's going to make people feel special. Like, I'm not part of like thousands of people. Like, she doesn't care about me. No, make them feel seen and heard. And that's the most powerful tip I have.
So I have a pretty robust email list, and it has a decent click-through rate, but there's not a decent conversion. Like, they click, they nose around, look at things, but there's something, what am I missing? Like, what's missing there? So I think I keep finding, well, like, let's be honest, I'm looking for reasons to discourage me because I don't like doing it. So I keep looking at these things and like, well, this happens, but nothing happens. So I'm going to focus my time on somewhere that I am seeing some movement. So what would you say for that? Like, what am I doing wrong?
So the problem is that you are getting the opens of the emails and the clicks, but not a follow through with a sale.
Correct.
Okay, so that's not necessarily something to be discouraged by. I would be really encouraged by the fact that they actually took the time to click on your link, because that shows interest.
Yeah.
That I am ready to purchase something. It could be different things. It could be the way that offer was formulated. That's the least likely, I think.
Yeah.
But it takes people. How often do I click on a link and I want to get it? It's just not the right time right now. So a lot of times it takes people like 7, 10, 20 times, not to sound like, oh my God, discouraging you again, but before they like pull the trigger, right? And actually purchase from you. You could try to reword the offer a little bit once that click, whatever sales page you have going, to make it, maybe try to work around that. But I would say as long as people are clicking through, the click rate is really important, and it shows that people are ready to purchase from you. It just maybe that particular time, I don't know how often that happens to you, if it's a trend or if it's just like, well, it's been a few times, just make the distinction between those two things. And then, even with open rates and stuff, I don't know if you do A/B split testing, if you can do that on your email marketing, but that's where you test out different titles of your emails, preview titles, things like that, that will inspire that open rate. Also with how fast do you, in a sequence of, say if you have a nurture sequence or even just like a sequence to regular subscribers, how fast are you offering something? Because sometimes people just need to be sold to right away, and other times it's like, they hold off. But you can't wait till, like I did that mistake with one welcome sequence where I just it took forever, and people were like reading long stories and they're like, okay, I don't know what this is about, unsubscribe. So there's different ways of looking at it, and honestly there's not one. If everybody had the answer to perfect open rate and click-throughs and sales, that would be great. But it is a trial and error in many ways as well. So you just have to kind of just celebrate the click on the link thing. That's what I would say.
So I have a two-part question kind of off of that, because you mentioned unsubscribe. So I had been kind of off the newsletter. I was really just sending my Substack. And I had been off my newsletter for a while. I'm just going to say a while. And immediately I got an unsubscribe. I mean, so I'll let you talk to that. But so I was actually still in the program and just refreshed the screen to make sure that it did go out to everybody. And there was already an unsubscribe. So I was like, this is why I don't do this. My feelings get hurt. And then the other thing would be, now again, I've kind of been off the train for a little bit. So how could I get back into it? Where do I start? Do I re-welcome everybody? I mean, there might be people on there that maybe they haven't been properly welcomed.
Yeah, you could absolutely do a new welcome sequence and just kind of be like, hey, I'm back. Or you could give some sort of I've been working a long time, refining my business, and I'm really now into, this is where I belong, and I just want to make sure that you're in the right spot. This is what you can expect. I think it's people like that when they say, this is what you can expect from me. You can expect to hear from me once a month. Set the expectations up, and this I will be sharing about XYZ. If this is for you, great. And I will absolutely recommend that you do. I have it in I actually have a sequence that automatically resets. If someone hasn't clicked or opened an email from me in 3 months, I will give them a note, say, hey, you haven't opened in 3 months. Or you still want to be on it? If not, click here. If yes, just, click the resubscribe button or whatever button I have. And then if they haven't opened up in 9 months, I think it is. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on these times, but then I just get rid of them, because you don't want dead subscribers on your list. Again, Google will blacklist you, and
right.
You're not going to be able to reach the people you want to reach. Now for the unsubscribe, do not get emails about unsubscribes. I know you said you didn't, but some people do get notifications whenever you get a new subscribe or an unsubscribe. Unsubscribes, when I started looking at it in a different way, it was so every time I get an unsubscribe now, I actually celebrate it, because it means that I'm weeding out the people that are not for me, and I don't have to pay for them. Shoot, I'm paying a lot of money every month for these people.
Right.
Do I want someone on my list that doesn't want what I have to sell or have to say? Of course not. So you are not everybody's cup of tea. I'm sorry to break it to you, but there is going to be, but then you have also on the opposite side, raving fans, and they've stayed on. I have people who have stayed on my list for 10 years.
Wow.
And they keep opening and they keep clicking. I celebrate those. I want to focus on those. I do not want to focus on the unsubscribe. So that comes from an insecurity of wanting to be liked by everyone.
Yep.
Or I put so much work into it. Why doesn't she get it? She doesn't get it, or he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Good. Let him go somewhere else. You don't want that. You want that raving fans only. And so think about it like that. Again, don't write an email that you think, oh my God, I really pour my heart and soul into this email. Next one, I'm going to write more what I think they want. Nah, no. Keep being you. And so, again, it is an art to it, and email marketing is also constantly evolving. And now with AI coming into it, there's good and bad things about AI. AI, like, it's really taken over. I use 2 platforms. So I use one for my food, which is Active Campaign, which is really like high end. It's like super, involved. And there AI, like you could just ask them anything and they'll like help you, just like with everything, like how to reach people, algorithms, all that stuff. With social media and stuff. But then I have Kit for my Natural Average Dog Health Coach, because then it's more softer. I'm focusing more on content. So you do want to sort of research your different platforms, like what fits your brand best, because there's so many and there's a lot of different wonderful and there's free versions too. So if you're just starting out, you don't need all the bells and whistles until you learn what you really want to use that for. Right. So for Active Campaign, it's like really, they have a lot more sophisticated segmentations. So like someone just said, I can say, do you want to hear from me both of these, or do you want to just hear from this? And then it just automatically just weasels them out, it's just so much more sophisticated than Kit in that sense. So for me, who have been in business for so long there, that's perfect. But for Kit, I feel like that's a really nice, and I like the surface. I mean, it's the interface better. It's a little bit more nicer to look at. So those are things that you can make sure that you're comfortable with whatever platform you choose, because if you feel like, ugh, every time you open, you're not going to send any emails, right?
Right.
And so right now we have a lot of, wonderful things. You can just get free advice on YouTube and things like that. And just start small. You don't have to be all sophisticated and complicated, but share with your audience, show up for them, whether it's once a week or once a month. Just be sure that they know when they can expect to hear from you.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. And don't be afraid, it's really a place where you can be yourself. You can, really create a close-knit community. I love my email list. I mean, they're amazing. And I remember like when my mom passed away, I had these like random people I'd never heard from. I'm so sorry, and like sent my condolences and like, and then started sharing, like, I really loved your email about this and that. And like, it's just a really nice way in such an impersonal world we live in to create that community that we all crave and should have. So I can't say enough about email lists. They really are very valuable. So if I can inspire you to do one thing this week or this month even, get that email list started. And if you want, reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not a super, super expert. There's many people that know a lot more than me, but this is just what I've gained through experience of years of emailing. So
well, and you've talked me off the ledge a few times. I mean, it's my inner work I have to do, but it's really, you are really inspiring. Even just what you said about the community and connecting, and that's what we're trying to create here. And it really has that intimate piece to it that if you take away all those bad things that I said, all the things I hate about it, which many of you might feel the same way, and you look at like what's the end goal and having that community. Because I will say, when people reply to those emails, even if it's just like, hey, how are you? It doesn't even have to be about it. It's like I reached out to them through this newsletter, and then they were just checking in with me. It is beautiful. Like it's just nice. Like, wow, they read it and they felt like they wanted to reach out to me, which is, it is community. And I do like that. Now I'm inspiring myself. So we know what I'm doing this afternoon.
Yay. Awesome. And, like you were saying we did a social media episode, which, talking about batching content, that's what I would do. I would just set aside one day where you can write out like emails for like maybe 2 months. So you don't have to think about it. It's just an automatic thing. You're maybe selling something. You wake up in the morning. Oh my gosh, I just did that this morning. I had a sale. I was out walking my dog and like, oh, someone bought my ebook. Yay, because of the email. So that's what you can do. You don't have to show up personally and do exhaust yourself doing 10 consultations a day. That's not sustainable. Your email list, selling, whatever it is, some digital product, or, set up another session in a week or two, that's what you do. And that's why it's so valuable. So it's absolutely worth it. And, you may grow to love emails just like I do.
Well, and just one last thing for me is, you touched on it a little bit here with just kind of being able to having the email list selling things, and you can take time off. Like that is my goal, is to, when we take time off, we're not going to be able to see clients, right? Because that's the whole point of but you can still reach people, you can still help people, you still have valuable things that maybe it's not a one-on-one consultation, but it is an ebook or a class that maybe you have that's recorded that they can purchase. So because that's something that a lot of us practitioners we don't take time off because we need to make money. We need to pay our bills, and we can't go on a nice vacation. But if you set it up properly, you are working. Past you is kind of working through your vacation, so you can take that time off to recharge and find your center again.
So one thing I love the most about it, and also as you were mentioning, like reaching so many more people at once versus like when you do one-on-one consultation, you're just helping one person, which is important. Yeah. That person is absolutely important. But if your goal is to reach a wider audience and just, that's where your email list, that's what that's for.
Yeah. Helping as many animals as possible.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's all about. So I hope this was helpful. And, as always, we want to hear from you. Are you using your email list, or has it been sitting there waiting? What's holding you back? And if you've cracked it, what has changed for you? We'd love to hear. Come find us at the Whole Pack Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, on Substack. Tell us all about it. And of course, if this episode gave you something useful, share it with someone in the space who needs to hear it. Give us a like, that's really important for us. And then we'd love to hear what you have to say. Yes. Anything else, Melissa?
No, we will include your book list. We're going to have Sunny's book list. I think that's going to have to be something. So we'll include that in, if it's not in the show notes on Apple, it will definitely be over on our Substack. So
great.
Just make sure to check it out, because you're very well read, and you always, any book that I've read that you recommended, I'm like, I wish I read this sooner. That's it.
Oh, nice. I'm so glad to hear. Thank you so much. Yeah, course. Absolutely.
Well, thank you all, and a great conversation. Again, I feel inspired, so thank you, Sunny.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Melissa, and we'll see you all next week.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Before we go, we want to remind you that the information shared on the Whole Pack is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace veterinary medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your veterinarian before making any changes to your pet's diet, supplements, or healthcare routine. Every animal is unique, and what works for one may not be appropriate for another. We're here to empower you with knowledge, but your vet is your partner in your pet's individual care.